North Atlantic, February 9, 1943. 2:17 hours. U-223, a Type VIC U-boat, runs submerged at 180 meters, deep beneath a raging winter gale. The control room is lit only by the faint red glow of battle lamps. 48 men breathe the same stale air, thick with diesel fumes and sweat. The boat is rigged for silent running. Engines stopped, no pumps, no voices above a whisper. Then it comes. A sharp, metallic ping slices through the pressure hull like a scalpel. 1 second of silence. Another ping, faster this time, searching closer. The sound bounces inside every man's skull. The hydrophone operator rips off his headphones, face drained white. Astic. High-speed propeller. Bearing 270. He's pinging us. Captain Lieutenant Gerhard Palm freezes at the periscope stand. Every crewman knows what that rapid, relentless ping now means. For 3 years they were the hunters. Tonight, in the freezing blackness, the roles have reversed. The wolf has become the prey. September 1939. German radio announces the invasion of Poland. Within hours, Grossadmiral Karl Donitz receives the order he has waited years for. From the Carnival headquarters in Brittany, he unleashes his U-boat arm into the North Atlantic. In the first 12 months, the results are staggering. Britain, an island dependent on imported food and raw materials, is suddenly vulnerable as never before. U-20 slips into Scapa Flow and sinks the battleship Royal Oak. U-47 under Gunther Preen repeats the feat against merchant shipping. By the summer of 1940, with France fallen and the Luftwaffe pounding British ports, Donitz boats operate almost unmolested. They call it Die Glückliche Zeit, the happy time. The Type 7 U-boat becomes the gray wolf of the ocean. Fast on the surface, armed with 4 bow tubes and 1 stern, it can stay at sea for weeks. At night, they run diesel engines at 20 knots, recharge batteries, and hunt in loose packs directed by radio from shore. Convoys are located by sighting reports, then the wolves converge. Between July and October 1940 alone, 217 ships totaling over 1 million gross tons are sent to the bottom. Britain's imports fall from 68 million tons in 1939 to just 32 million in 1941. Winston Churchill later writes that the only thing that ever really frightened him during the war was the U-boat peril. Donitz perfects the Rudel tactic, Wolfpack tactic. A single boat shadows a convoy at extreme range, sending constant position reports. When enough boats assemble, usually under cover of darkness, they attack on the surface with guns and torpedoes. Escorts are too few, too slow, and lack effective sensors. Their ASTIC sets, the British term for active sonar, are primitive, limited to short ranges and useless against a surfaced U-boat running at speed. Depth charges explode at preset depths. If the U-boat dives deep enough or turns sharply enough, it escapes. Crews return to Lorya and Street Nazir as heroes, greeted with fanfares and flowers. By early 1942, the hunting grounds expand dramatically. Hitler declares war on the United States in December 1941. Donitz immediately dispatches boats to the American East Coast, Operation Paukenschlag, drumbeat. American cities still blaze their lights at night. Merchant ships sail independently, unescorted, silhouetted against shore illumination. In the first 6 months of 1942, U-boats sink 609 ships off North America for the loss of only 22 boats. Captains speak of the second happy time and shooting ducks in a pond. Yet beneath the triumph, cracks are already forming. British codebreakers at Bletchley Park have begun reading fragments of Enigma traffic. Shipyards in Britain and America are launching escort vessels at an accelerating pace. And in laboratories and test ranges, Allied scientists are perfecting the one weapon the U-boat arm has never truly faced: a sonar that can find, track, and kill a submerged submarine with terror. If the pattern lands across the U-boat's pressure hull, multiple bombs detonate simultaneously, usually with fatal results. The first confirmed Hedgehog kill comes on February 1, 1943, when HMS Beverly sinks U-187. High-frequency direction finding, HF/DF or Huff-Duff, stations sprout along the coasts. A single surface transmission from a shadowing U-boat is now triangulated within minutes, vectoring escorts straight to the transmitter. And on the flight decks of the new escort carriers, USS Bogue, HMS Archer, HMS Biter, Grumman Avengers and Swordfish carry the same centimetric radar that shredded the Bismarck's illusions 2 years earlier. In the escort groups themselves, a new doctrine is born, the hunter-killer group. No longer content to defend, commanders like Captain Frederick John Walker in the 2nd Escort Group take the fight to the U-boats. They operate independently of convoys, using intelligence and radar to stalk the stalkers. Walker's sloop Starling, fitted with the deadly Type 147 depth-finding set, becomes the most feared ship in the Atlantic. For the men in the U-boats, the change is felt long before the statistics confirm it. Patrols that once lasted 60 days now end in 20, or not at all. Boats vanish without a distress call. The Metox receiver, introduced in August 1942 to warn of 1.5-meter radar pulses, suddenly falls silent as Allied ships shift to 10 centimeters and then 3 centimeters wavelengths it cannot detect. In the conning towers of Lorient and La Palisse, veterans notice the new sound on the rare occasions they return, the rapid, searching ping that follows them even when they dive deep and run silent. It is no longer enough to crash dive and pray. The ocean itself has begun to speak, and it speaks with a British accent. North Atlantic.
Dapt 160 metres.
March 1943. Inside U-632 the air has already turned foul after 19 days at sea. 45 men share less than 40 cubic meters of living space. Every breath tastes of battery acid, unwashed bodies, and the sour milk they call U-boat perfume. Sleep comes in 4-hour watches on damp plank bunks while the boat creeps along at 2 knots to save power. Then the ping arrives. It is not the slow, lazy sweep the old hands remember from 1941. This is a fast, rhythmic stab ping, ping ping, ping ping ping, climbing the scale like a violin string tightening. The hydrophone operator, 19-year-old funk fighter Carl Lucht, tears the headphones from his ears as if they burn. His eyes are wide, pupils black saucers in the red light. Kontakt, schneller Fastik.
Hat uns fest.
Contact, high-speed Astic. He has us locked. In that instant every man in the boat feels the same cold spike in the gut. They have heard the stories from the few boats that limped home. The ping that never stops, the escort that circles for hours like a shark, the sudden roar of propellers overhead followed by the hammer blow of hedgehog bombs exploding all at once. Crash diving no longer saves you. Silent running no longer hides you. The ocean has become transparent. The youngest machinist, barely 17, begins to tremble uncontrollably. A seasoned Oberbootsman places a hand on his shoulder, not kindness, but to stop the shaking from making noise. No one speaks above a whisper. Valves are closed with rags wrapped around the wheels. The cook freezes with a pot of ersatz coffee in his hands. Even the bilge water seems louder. For the next 6 hours U-632 lies on the bottom at 190 meters, beyond her tested depth. The pressure hull groans. Rivets weep. Chlorine gas hisses from the battered batteries as sea water trickles in. Men sit motionless, staring at nothing, counting heartbeats between pings. Some pray silently. Others vomit into buckets that cannot be emptied. One engineer writes a last letter home on a scrap of paper he will never send. This is the new reality. The ping is not just a sound, it is the audible signature of defeat. It tells every crewman that the war they signed up for, the dashing war of surface attacks under moonlight, is over. From now on they will fight blind, deaf, and terrified in a steel coffin that can be heard long before it hears anything else. February 1943. HMS Vedette, a new V-class destroyer, steams at 18 knots through a North Atlantic swell. In her Astic hut, leading seaman Ronald Claricoats presses headphones to his ears and watches the glowing green trace on the chemical recorder. The set is a Type 144 transmitter coupled to a Type 147 depth-finding scanner, the combination the crews simply call the Sword. It transmits a narrow beam of sound at 14 to 22 kilohertz, far higher than the old low-frequency sets. The quartz transducer beneath the hull fires a 1 millisecond pulse every 6 seconds. When that pulse strikes a hard surface, a sharp echo returns, converted into a rising musical note and a precise range on the dial. Claricotes hears it first as a faint whistle at 3,800 yards. He swings the trainable transducer by hand. The note climbs, becomes pure, almost beautiful. Firm contact, sir. Submerged submarine, bearing 195, range closing fast. On the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Peter Gretton orders an immediate turn. The recorder paper now prints a solid black sword, a vertical spike that tells him not only bearing and range, but exact depth, 320 feet and descending. No more guessing where to set depth charges. The U-boat is painted in sound. The technology that makes this possible has leapt forward in a single year. The new sets use plan position indicators and bearing deviation plots. The operator can hold contact while the ship maneuvers at full speed. Range accuracy is now plus or minus 10 yards, depth plus or minus 5 feet. When the range drops below 1,000 yards, the note becomes a shrill scream in the headphones. Most lethal of all is integration. The Type 147 feeds depth directly to the new Squid triple mortar, or to the fire control table for Hedgehog. The escort no longer drops blind patterns astern. She attacks ahead, precisely, repeatedly, without ever losing contact. One escort can now prosecute a single U-boat for hours, passing the contact to a sister ship when her own depth charges run low. By spring 1943, every new River-class frigate and every refitted destroyer carries this suite. American ships receive the identical QC series sonar built by General Electric and Bell Laboratories. The Atlantic suddenly rings with high-frequency pings, thousands of them every day, turning the U-boat's last refuge, the silent deep, into a brightly lit killing ground. For the men who once hunted in darkness, the ocean has become a glass bowl beneath a searchlight they cannot see and cannot escape. Captain Frederick Walker's second escort group has turned the old rules inside out. For the first time in the war, the escorts are not waiting to be attacked. They are hunting. Walker's doctrine is simple and merciless. The moment a U-boat is detected by radar, Huff-Duff, or Aztec, the entire group abandons the convoy and becomes a pack of its own. One ship holds contact with the new Type 147 Sword set while the others form a box around the datum point. They no longer allow the submarine to slip away into the depths. They prosecute it for as long as it takes, 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 if necessary, until batteries are exhausted, air is gone, or the hull collapses. Crash diving has become suicide. The old escape maneuver, spot the escort, dive hard, turn 90 degrees, rig for silent running, now plays directly into Allied hands. The moment the U-boat dives, the ping locks on instantly. The escort accelerates to 20 knots, closes the range in minutes, and begins the deliberate scientific kill. On the bridge of HMS Loosestrife, Lieutenant Robert Atkinson watches the plot. His Aztec team has held you 456 for 9 straight hours. Every time the boat tries to creep away at 2 knots, the rising note betrays it. Depth charges are no longer the primary weapon. They are used only to force the submarine deeper, into the crushing pressure where hull seems open. The real killer is persistence. The U-boat cannot surface to recharge or ventilate. Crews suffocate in their own carbon dioxide long before the bombs run out. Donit's orders still demand attack, but the mathematics have inverted. In 1941, one U-boat sighting meant one convoy scattered and mauled. In 1943, one sighting means one U-boat stalked and almost certainly destroyed. The wolf pack itself becomes the bait. When Donitz assembles 20 boats against ONS-5, Walker and his colleagues see not a threat but a target-rich environment. By the end of the first week of May, the tactic is perfected. Escorts now operate in pairs. One illuminates with 10 centimeters radar at night, the other pings relentlessly below. Surfaced U-boats are blinded by lee lights and shredded by gunfire before they can dive. Submerged boats are pinned by Aztec and hammered until they break. The ocean floor of the North Atlantic begins to fill with the steel graves of Type VIIs and IXs, each marked by a widening oil slick and a final, fading ping that simply stops. For the U-boat arm, the tactical world has ended. The hunter has been out-hunted. Carnival, Brittany. May 30th, 1943. Gross Admiral Karl Donitz stands alone in the map room, hands clasped behind his back, staring at the Atlantic plot. 41 red U-boat symbols have been crossed out in the past 30 days. 41. More boats lost in a single month than in all of 1940 and 1941 combined. He knows the ping is killing them. In the concrete pens of Loria, returning commanders report the same nightmare. Escorts that appear without warning, that track submerged boats for hour after hour, that seem to read thoughts. The METOX receiver, the Biscay Cross aerial that was supposed to warn of radar, has become useless. Crews rip the sets from their bulkheads in rage. German scientists insist the Allies must be using infrared or some secret ray. They are wrong. It is simply better radar on wavelengths METOX cannot hear, and sonar that now outranges every countermeasure the Kriegsmarine possesses. Donitz orders frantic experiments. Boats are wrapped in radar-absorbent rubber mats, Gummituch, code-named Alberich. A few are fitted with Aphrodite decoys, hydrogen balloons trailing metal strips to fool radar. Others receive the Naxos detector, hastily developed to catch 10 centimeters wavelengths. None arrive in time or in numbers that matter. By the time Naxos reaches the fleet in September 1943, the battle is already lost. In his diary, Donitz writes on May 23, "The enemy holds every trump card. We are no longer able to inflict serious damage." The next day he issues the order no U-boat commander ever expected to read. All boats are to temporarily withdraw from the North Atlantic convoy routes. The tonnage war, the centerpiece of German naval strategy, is suspended. Veteran aces like Otto Kretschmer, captured in 1941, and Joachim Schepke, dead since 1941, had warned that the day the Allies solved the submarine would be the day Germany lost the war at sea. That day has arrived, announced not by speeches or declarations, but by the cold, mechanical heartbeat of a sonar pulse echoing through a steel hull at 200 meters. From the bridges of HMS Starling and USS Bogue, Allied escort commanders watched the reversal with grim satisfaction. Men like Walker, Johnny McIntyre, and Donald McIntyre no longer speak of defense. They speak of hunting seasons, and the quarry is running out of ocean. North Atlantic, April 28, 1943. Convoy ONS 542 merchant ships bound for Halifax steams westward into the Greenland air gap. Has committed everything. 3 full wolf packs, Star, Specht, and Fink, totaling 47 U-boats, form the largest concentration of the entire war. The Admiral believes one decisive massacre will force Britain back to the negotiating table. The first attacks come on the night of 28 to 29 April. Fog and snow squalls blind the escorts. U-boats slip through the screen on the surface, torpedoing 5 ships in the opening hours. The convoy scatters into defensive circles, but the wolves press harder. By dawn on May 4th, the battle becomes continuous. Visibility drops to half a mile in driving sleet. The ocean is a chaos of burning tankers, exploding depth charges, and the constant scream of Aztec pings. Captain Walker's second escort group, detached to support, arrives like avenging angels. HMS Loosestrife gains contact on U-192 at 9:14. For the next 7 hours she and HMS Sunflower take turns holding the ping. At 16:27 a.m. perfect 10-charge pattern from Sunflower detonates directly beneath the U-boat. U-192 rises stern first, breaks in half and vanishes. 45 men lost. An hour later HMS Vedette locks onto U-125. Hedgehog bombs straddle the pressure hull. A single detonation is enough. The boat surfaces out of control, crew spilling onto the casing. Vedette rams and sinks her at 18:03. At 22:40 that same evening, HMS Oribis and HMS Snowflake corner U-630. The ping never wavers. Depth charges force her to the surface. 4.7-inch guns finish the work. 47 dead. Title: German U-boat crews were terrified when sonar pinged through the darknets. Through the night of 5 to 6 May the slaughter accelerates. U-209, U-438, U-659, U-186, 4 boats in 12 hours. Each sinking follows the same merciless pattern. Radar detection, immediate Aztec lock, relentless prosecution until the hull implodes or the boat is forced up and destroyed. By midday on May 6th, the wolf packs are disintegrating. Radio messages from the boats grow frantic. Being hunted continuously. Cannot shake Aztec. Batteries almost gone. Escort overhead. Pinging without pause. Requesting immediate assistance. No assistance comes. In 48 hours around ONS 5, 7 U-boats are destroyed and 5 more so badly damaged they limp home and never sail again. The convoy loses 12 ships, yet it survives. The tonnage equation has inverted forever. Black May has begun. North Atlantic. May 12, 1943. The killing does not pause. U-456 is the first of the day. HMS Pathfinder and a Liberator from 86 Squadron hunt her for 11 hours. The final depth charge attack ruptures her pressure hull at 1442. She surfaces, mortally wounded. The crew abandons ship into burning oil. Only 7 are rescued. That same afternoon, U-89 is caught on the surface by HMS Broadway and the destroyer Lagan. Radar finds her at 12 miles. She crash dives, but the ping locks immediately. A single squid salvo, 3 400-pound bombs, detonates directly above her conning tower at 1719. The boat simply disappears. The numbers mount with mechanical precision. May 14th, U-236 damaged beyond repair, scuttled by her own crew. May 15th, U-176 sunk south of Cuba by a Cuban hunter-killer group using American sonar. May 17th, U-128 rammed and sunk off Brazil. May 19th, U-960 barely escapes, returns with half her crew dead from chlorine poisoning. May 20th, U-954, carrying Donit's own son, Peter, vanishes beneath a hedgehog pattern from HMS Jed.
No survivors.
May 22nd, U-569 surrenders on the surface after 18 hours of continuous tracking, the first U-boat to strike her colors rather than die. May 23rd, 3 more gone in a single night, U-752, U-753, U-640. A further 29 are heavily damaged. Average patrol length has collapsed to 12 days. Crews who once sailed out waving and laughing now leave the pens in silence, faces gray, knowing the odds. At 1914 on May 24, 1943, the signal every U-boat commander has dreaded finally flashes across the airwaves from Carnival. To all boats in the North and Central Atlantic, cease operations against convoys immediately. Withdraw to the area southwest of the Azores. Avoid all contact with the enemy. Karl Donitz has just admitted defeat in the one theater he believed Germany could win. The Battle of the Atlantic, the campaign he promised Hitler would strangle Britain, is over. The U-boats are no longer predators. They are fugitives in their own ocean. The sonar ping has spoken its verdict.
Lorient, France.
June 1943. The great concrete pens echo with a silence heavier than any explosion. Where once marching bands greeted returning aces, now only ambulance sirens wail. Stretchers carry frostbitten, oil-soaked survivors past rows of empty cradles that will never be filled again. Of the 237 U-boats that existed on May 1, 1943, 118 are gone by the end of July, half the entire operational fleet wiped out in 90 days. Over 3,500 trained submariners, the irreplaceable elite, lie entombed on the Atlantic floor. Title: German U-boat crews were terrified when sonar pinged through the darkness. In the officers' mess at Carnival, Donitz convenes the survivors. One young Captain Lieutenant, just back after his boat was depth-charged for 14 straight hours, stands and speaks the words no one dares write. Her admiral, the men are calling it the second dying.
Morale collapses.
Experienced chief engineers refuse new boats. Crews march, the tonnage curve tells the brutal truth. In April 1943, U-boats still sank 235,000 tons of Allied shipping. In May, the figure drops to 134,000. In June, it falls to 17,000. By July, the Kriegsmarine is losing 4 submarines for every ship it sinks. The arithmetic that once promised victory now predicts annihilation. Donitz issues desperate orders: fit snorkels, develop acoustic torpedoes, rush the revolutionary type XXI electroboats. All too late. The Atlantic convoy routes are secure for the first time since 1939. Liberty ships cross unmolested in numbers that stagger the imagination. Britain's warehouses fill again. American troops and tanks pour toward English ports. In the concrete corridors of the U-boat bases, veterans no longer speak of England or America. They speak only of the ping, that cold, mechanical heartbeat that follows them into the dark and never stops. With the North Atlantic routes cleared of wolves, Allied shipping tonnage surges past pre-war levels by August 19. In the end, the war beneath the waves was decided not by courage or seamanship, but by a single, clear note echoing through the dark. That rapid sonar ping, no louder than a dropped wrench in a quiet room, ended the last place on Earth where a man could still feel invisible. It stripped away the romance of the gray wolves, exposed the fragility of steel at 200 meters, and reminded every crew that technology, once mature, is merciless. Black May 1943 did not merely defeat the U-boat arm. It closed an entire era of naval warfare. From that spring onward, submarines would only return to the offensive when they could truly hide again, beneath thermal layers inside nuclear silence. The Type 7 boats and their brave, exhausted men became the last warriors to fight a surface navy's war beneath the sea. Their graves still lie scattered across the Atlantic floor, silent now. No ping disturbs them anymore.